Fluorescent lights flicker. A body crumples against a concrete pillar. 3 men stand in the shadows. Still, professional, waiting for an order. Kim Jae-won, 35, crouches to his haunches. He is not disheveled. His suit is pristine. He examines the man on the ground the way a surgeon examines a problem, with complete detachment. He reaches into the man's jacket, retrieves a USB drive, turns it once between his fingers. Jae-won, quietly to no one. Clean it up. He stands, straightens his cuffs. He walks past the body without looking at it again. One of the men hesitates. Man. Sir, he had a family. Jae-won doesn't break stride. Jae-won, so do I. The camera holds on the USB in his hand as he walks into the darkness. The lights stop flickering. Silence. Smash cut to title card. And he moves through the building like weather. People adjust without realizing they're doing it. Aides speak in half sentences. Doors open before he reaches them. Nobody smiles at him directly. He's not cruel in obvious ways. He is simply absolute. We learn him in fragments. A framed photograph on his desk, turned face down. He hasn't righted it in years. He doesn't eat lunch. His staff doesn't ask why. He speaks in the shortest sentence that contains everything necessary. There is a scar on his left hand. He never explains it. He stands at the window, 42 floors up. The city belongs to him in every way, except the one he actually wants, though he couldn't name what that is. His phone rings. He lets it ring 3 times before answering. Jae-won. I know. Handle it. He hangs up. He looks at the city. He reaches out and touches the cold glass, just 1 finger, and then pulls his hand back. Something lives behind his eyes. Old. Heavy. Carefully buried. Adaizo Konkwo, 30, is the kind of woman who makes order look effortless, not because things come easily to her, but because she has learned to outwork every disadvantage quietly. Lagos born. Raised by a father who told her intelligence was armor, and softness was a choice, not a weakness. She wears both. She is restructuring his entire week's schedule without being asked, when a nervous aide appears. Done, he canceled the board review. Ad easy, not looking up. I rescheduled it. Thursday, 4 p.m. Adi, he'll push back. Ad easy, let him push back to me then. Is the Busan brief on his desk? I did not yet. Ad easy, it will be. She prints it, tucks it into a clean folder. Walks to his office, knocks twice, not nervously, as a statement. She enters, places the folder on his desk, exactly where he can reach it without adjusting his posture. She turns to leave. J1. You reorganized the format. She stops, turns. Adis. The risk data was buried on page 4. You read forward. I moved it to page 1. He looks at her for the first time. Not through her. At her. J1. Do it again without telling me, and I'll reassign you. Adis. Even. Understood. Should I tell you next time then? A beat. Almost. Something moves in his face. J1. Yes. She leaves. He opens the folder. The risk data is right there on page 1. He reads it first. The tension between them accumulates the way a storm does, long before it announces itself. Like in a negotiation, she catches a clause that would have cost them millions. He doesn't thank her. But he starts leaving her in the room for every difficult meeting. In the elevator, they stand in silence for 20 floors. Neither moves to break it. When the doors open, she says, "Good night." He says nothing, but he watches the doors close, working late, documents between them, the city glowing outside. Their hands close on the same page. Neither acknowledges it, neither moves away. Jae-won, you're not afraid of this place. Das, should I be? Jae-won, most people are. Das is. I've been in rooms where I wasn't wanted my whole life. I learned to take up space anyway. He looks at her, and something locked behind his eyes shifts. Just slightly, just enough to notice. She shouldn't be here, but a crisis pulled her in. Documents, a time-sensitive call, professional necessity. He has been drinking. Not recklessly, but enough to loosen the iron grip on everything he keeps inside. A deal collapsing. A threat from a rival family. The particular loneliness of a man who built a world that no one can reach him in. The evening shifts, in the space between one moment and the next, between connection and the failure of judgment, a line is crossed. This is not written with glamour. There is no music. There is no slow motion. There is confusion and a power imbalance that has always existed, and a moment that cannot be taken back. She goes still. Not absent, present, processing, surviving it the way strong people survive things they didn't choose, by holding themselves together until they can examine it alone. She dresses in silence, every button deliberate. To her face is a closed room. He is awake, watching her from across the room with something fractured and unnamed on his face. Not quite regret, not quite clarity. The specific expression of a man who has done something that broke through his own armor and is only now feeling what's underneath. Jaewon a dice, flat, quiet. Don't say my name right now. She picks up her bag. She walks to the door. At the threshold, she stops. Not for him, for herself. She breathes in. She breathes out. She leaves. He doesn't follow. He sits in the silence of what he's done, and for the first time in years, has nothing to reach for. A white stick on the cold edge of a sink. She stares at it for a long time without moving. Then she sits down on the bathroom floor, back against the wall. My knees pulled to her chest, and she allows herself exactly 60 seconds of fear. She counts them. When 60 is done, she breathes once, deeply, and begins to think. Dies, to herself, low. Okay, you've survived harder things. Think. She is not naive. She knows what his world is. She knows what carrying his child means. Not romantically, but structurally. The weight of it. She also knows one thing clearly. She will not be absorbed by his world. She will not become a piece of it. She books a one-way ticket. She starts packing. She submits her resignation. Clean, professional, documented. 4 weeks' notice. No explanation. The paper reaches him within the hour. He stares at it. He calls her in. Jaewon, controlled. You're leaving. ADS, I gave 4 weeks. Jaewon, that's not... ADS, cleanly. Mr. Kim, I think we both know this is the right decision. He stands. He moves toward her. She doesn't step back, but something in her posture braces. Jaewon, I'm not going to pretend what happened. Adis, don't, please. A long, charged silence. Jaewon, I won't accept this. Adis, quietly but with absolute clarity. You don't have a choice this time. She leaves. He stands at his desk, her resignation in his hand, and for the first time in his adult life, he doesn't know what to do next. She didn't come willingly. She was brought, not by him, but by the family. Kim Sung-jin, 68, patriarch of the Kim dynasty, is a man carved from old stone. He learned of the pregnancy through channels she still can't trace. The estate is immense, beautiful in the cold, architectural way of spaces designed to impress rather than comfort. She sits across from him. She doesn't fidget. Sung-jin, you carry the Kim bloodline. That is not a private matter. Adoys, with respect, I carry my child. My decisions about that child are mine. Sung-jin, studying her. You're not afraid of me. Adoys. I've met men who carry the weight of their name like a weapon before. He looks at her. Something shifts behind his eyes. Old, careful. He has not been answered like this in a very long time. Sung-jin, quietly. Good. Weak women make weak heirs. Jae-won enters. He stops when he sees her. Something crosses his face. Relief, dread, something with no clean name. He looks at his father. Jae-won, controlled fury. You didn't tell me. Sung-jin. You would have handled it badly. This way? She's here. That's enough. Jae-won looks at Adis across the room. She looks back. Not with warmth. Not with fear. With the composed patience of a woman who is calculating every available exit. She arrives in cream silk. Aha Seon-yu, 32, moves through the estate the way water moves through a familiar landscape, as if it naturally flows to her. She was, until very recently, the assumed future of this family, daughter of another powerful dynasty. Strategic marriage. Everything arranged, nothing decided by feeling. She finds a daisy reading on the terrace. Seon-yu, warmly, precisely. You must be a daisy. I've been curious about you. Daisy, looking up. I haven't heard much about you. Seon-yu, smiling. That's either honest or strategic. Daisy, both, usually. Two women in a garden. The air between them is perfectly polite and entirely dangerous. That evening, Adaise's tea tastes slightly different. She sets it down without drinking it. She says nothing. But she watches Seon-yu more carefully after that. Seon-yu operates in fine print, a seating arrangement that isolates, a story shared at dinner that reframes, an invitation extended to everyone in the room except one. Adais absorbs each move without reaction. She is, professionally speaking, excellent at reading power games. She has survived them her whole career. But being pregnant, alone, in someone else's fortress, this is different. At night, in the guest suite that feels like a gilded holding cell, she allows herself to feel the weight of it. Then she writes a list. Resources, options, plans A through D. She is not without moves. She reads late. He finds her. Doesn't announce himself. Just occupies the opposite chair. Jae-won, you haven't complained. Not once. Adis. Complaining doesn't change anything. Jae-won. Most people in your position would have made demands by now. Daise, not looking up. I'm not most people. He watches her. Jae-won. What do you want from this? She lowers her book. Considers him honestly. Daise. Safety for my child. To be treated as a person, not an arrangement. To not owe anyone anything. Jae-won, quietly. And if I could give you that. Adais. You already took something I didn't offer you. That's not a foundation. He has no answer. He sits with it. He does not leave. He stays for another hour, silent in the chair, until she falls asleep over her book. In the morning, she finds a folder on the table, her own legal counsel's contact details, a private account in her name, a security detail she can dismiss at will. A note in his handwriting. Your choice. Use it or don't. No declaration. No expectation. Just an offering. An eye for medical wing. Kim Estate. Day. An ultrasound. She is alone in the room, or she believes she is. When the heartbeat fills the small space, steady and unmistakable, she exhales slowly and presses one hand to her mouth. Jae-won is in the doorway. He arrived quietly. He watches the screen. Something in his face breaks. Barely visible, just slightly, in the way that a crack runs through ice. Not collapse, just fracture. Just the beginning of it. She sees it. She says nothing. She looks back at the screen. Adaz, softly, just to the image. I see you. He stays until the appointment ends. He walks the corridor back with her. Not close, not touching, just present, just beside her. It is the most tender thing he knows how to do. She's cooking. Not for anyone, just for herself. The smell of palm oil. What thyme and crayfish moves through the steel and marble kitchen. The staff watches with polite bewilderment. Jae-won appears in the doorway. stops. J1. What is that? Ades egusi soup. Sit down if you want some. He sits. She serves him without ceremony. He eats without speaking. J1, eventually. My grandmother cooked. She said this building would kill everyone who lived in it. Ades. Was she wrong? A long pause. J1. I don't know. It is the most honest thing he has said to another person in a decade. The first shot shatters a window in the east corridor. 3 seconds of silence, then the estate erupts. Alarms, running boots, shouted Korean. A rival faction. A power grab timed to a moment of perceived vulnerability. J1 distracted. A pregnancy that signals succession. A family that looks, briefly, like it can be rattled. J1 is transformed, not into panic, but into pure, lethal efficiency. Every mask stripped away. He moves fast, issues orders without hesitation, positions his people between the threat and every unguarded room. He reaches Ades's suite. She is standing in the center of the room, not cowering, not hysterical, evaluating. J1, controlled urgency. We need to move. Ades. Who is it? J1, not now. Ades. I need to understand the threat. He stares at her. Even now, even here, she demands to think. J1, one breath. Park faction, rival family. They'll use you as leverage if they find you first. Ades, nodding, processing. Okay, move. He takes her through the estate, hand on her back, not gripping, just guiding. When a shadow moves wrong at the end of a corridor, he steps in front of her without a word. She notices this. She says nothing. They reach safety. The attack is neutralized. In the aftermath, 2 of his men down, the threat contained. J1 sits alone in the dark, with his hands open on his knees. She finds him there. She sits nearby, not touching, just present, just beside him. It is the most tender thing she knows how to do. Labor arrives 3 weeks early, in the middle of the night. He sits in a hallway for 6 hours. He does not pace. He does not make calls. He sits with his hands clasped and his eyes on the floor, and he waits, in the way of a man who has never had to wait for anything that mattered to him before. When the nurse opens the door and says a single word, "Girl," something happens to his face that nobody in his adult life has ever seen. He does not cry, and not exactly. He simply folds, one hand over his mouth, eyes closed, one long, shaking breath. He's allowed in. Ades is exhausted, radiant in the particular way of women who have just survived something enormous. She holds the baby, Amara, though he doesn't know the name yet. He stands at the doorway, unable to move closer. She looks at him. Ades, quiet, not unkind. Come in, J1. He crosses the room. He sits beside the bed. He looks at Amara, this small, impossible thing. Ades watches his face. She sees something she did not expect to see. He reaches out one finger. Amara's hand closes around it. He makes a sound, low, involuntary, that is not a word. It is older than words. She is looking for a document, a legal file, routine, something about Amara's registration. The study is empty. The drawer is open. And there, in a folder she was not meant to find, is a photograph she has kept in her own wallet for 8 years. Her father. Younger. Standing with men she doesn't recognize. A location. A date. She traces it backwards slowly, piece by piece, with the careful intelligence she applies to everything. The business collapse. 8 years ago. The deal that destroyed her father's company. The one that drove a proud man to shame, to silence, to an early death that the doctors called cardiac arrest, and she has always called something else. The company that engineered the collapse, at the time a junior operation, ruthless, efficient, was run under a different name. But the structure, The documentation, the fingerprints. Jae-won enters the study. He sees what she's holding. His face goes absolutely still. A daze, voice low, and very controlled. Tell me I'm reading this wrong. A silence that answers everything. Jae-won, I was 26. I didn't know who he was to anyone. It was a business. A daze, barely above a whisper. My father. Jae-won, I know. A daze. He died. Jae-won, I know. She sets the folder down very carefully. She presses both hands flat on the desk. She does not cry. She will not cry in front of him. She looks at him, and what is in her eyes is not rage. It is something worse. It is grief and the specific devastation of a betrayal you never saw coming from a direction you thought was safe. Ada adds quietly. Leave this room. He opens his mouth. Ada adds, Jae-won, please leave this room. He leaves. He stands outside the closed door and hears nothing. The silence is more devastating than anything she could have said. She is packed before anyone wakes. Not in anger, in clarity. She moves efficiently, deliberately, the same way she has always moved through her professional life. She writes a letter. Legal, precise. It outlines Amara's rights, her own terms, the conditions under which she will permit contact. Her lawyer has a copy already. She is thorough. She is not cruel. Jae-won is waiting in the foyer. He knew. He does not block her path. Jae-won Lo, I know there is nothing I can say. She stops. She doesn't look at him. Jae-won, but I want you to know. I understand. What I took from you, both times. I understand the weight of it, and I'm not asking you to carry it differently. She is very still. Jae-won, I just need you to know that I know. She looks at him then, once, directly. Ada is softly but final. That's not enough. Not right now. She walks past him, out the door. The car is waiting. The morning is gray and cold, and entirely hers. She steps out into humidity, heat, noise, the sprawling, beautiful chaos of home. She breathes it in. She allows herself one true exhale. Amara is in her arms. She adjusts the blanket. She walks forward. She builds something from the parts of herself she kept intact. A small consultancy. Mornings in her childhood neighborhood, with her mother's voice in the next room. Friends who knew her before Seoul. A business that is hers. No one's asset. No one's arrangement. Amara grows. Dark eyes that notice everything. A temperament that arrived, it seems, with opinions already formed. Adais does not talk about him. But sometimes, at night, with Amara asleep on her chest, she allows herself to grieve. Not for what he did. For what? In another life, he might have been capable of becoming. Then she puts it down. She picks up tomorrow. He has been in Seoul. Then Tokyo. Then he was in Lagos for 3 days before she knew it. He did not come to her immediately. He walked the market she uses. He sat at the restaurant where she takes lunch on Fridays. He learned the city that made her. He's not the man who stood at the boardroom window. He's quieter. Less occupied with control. She sees him before he speaks. She is walking along the water. She stops. Dash, carefully. How long have you been here? Jae-won, 3 days. Adash, you didn't come to me? Jae-won, I didn't know if I had the right. The morning moves around them. Boats on the water. Distance between them still measured in everything. Adash, what are you here for, Jae-won? And he looks at her. Not at what she's carrying. Not at the air. Not at anything beyond who she actually is. Jae-won, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I know the distance between what I did and what forgiveness costs. I'm not here to close it for my own comfort. A pause. He looks at the water. Jae-won, I'm here because I couldn't pretend anymore that staying away was the right thing. I miss you. I miss who I was starting to be, near you. And I needed you to know, even if it changes nothing. Silence. the city breathing around them. Adoyes, very quietly. I'm not forgiving you today. Jawan. I know. Adoyes, or next week. Yasewan, I know. She looks at him for a long time, something in her face. Not warmth, not yet. But the beginning of a door that is not fully closed. Ades, there's a coffee place around the corner. I'm going there now. If you want to walk. She turns. She starts walking. He follows. 2 steps behind. Then, gradually, beside her. Not holding hands. Nothing resolved. No music swelling. Just 2 people walking in the same direction on a Lagos morning. The city loud and indifferent and full of light. The camera pulls back slowly until they are small among everything else. Fade out. A small table. 2 cups. Amara in a carrier on her chest. Asleep. He sits across from her. He looks at Amara. At that small, specific face. Jawan, quietly. What's her name? Hades Amara. Jawan. What does it mean? Hades Grace. Eternal. He nods. He looks at the table. He looks back up. Jawan. I'd like to learn. Whatever you'll let me. She holds his gaze. In her eyes. Not resolution, but something tentative and real. The beginning of a possibility. Not a promise. Fuadizio half a smile, the first one. Finish your coffee first. He picks up his cup. He almost, smiles back. Fade to black. If this story found something real in you, if you held your breath, if you chose a side, if something in these 2 people reminded you of anyone you've ever loved or lost or tried to forgive, then you're exactly the kind of person this was made for. Drop a comment right now and tell me. Team Adais. Team J1. For more interesting stories, hit subscribe. Because more stories to follow, subscribe. Stay. The best episodes are still coming. And share this with someone who loves a story that doesn't take the easy way out.